Throughout history, humanity has always sought answers to the great mysteries of existence. Whether in the lives of enigmatic leaders, ancient spiritual traditions, or sacred places filled with symbolism, we find narratives that bridge the mundane and the divine. Prepare to uncover stories that challenge our understanding of faith, sacrifice, and spiritual connection. From the mysterious death of a czar to the austere lives of monks in the world's most remote mountains, these narratives not only preserve the past but also reveal timeless lessons. Each detail invites reflection, showing how the pursuit of purpose and transcendence shapes the human journey. Alexander I, Tsar of all Russia, is a figure who blends military genius, spiritual sensitivity, and a life full of contradictions. He ruled during one of the most tumultuous periods in Russian history, facing both internal and external challenges. His victory over Napoleon in 1812 made him a national hero, but behind this image was a deeply tormented man. From a young age, Alexander showed an interest in Enlightenment ideas, influenced by his grandmother, Catherine the Great, and his education under Swiss tutor Frederick Caesar de la Harpe. However, these ideals clashed with the harsh reality of governing a vast and complex empire. After Napoleon's defeat, Alexander underwent a personal transformation, embracing a more spiritual life. The devastation caused by the wars, combined with his own guilt and responsibilities, awakened in him a yearning for redemption. During this period, he surrounded himself with religious figures such as Madame de Krüdener, a mystic who influenced his views on politics and power. Alexander championed the creation of the Holy Alliance, a coalition of European monarchs aimed at uniting nations under Christian principles. The relationship between Alexander and Madame de Krüdener sparked rumors. Some accused him of letting his spirituality interfere with his duties as a ruler, while others saw him as a man genuinely committed to his faith. However, this duality between politics and spirituality defined his reign. His attempts to abolish serfdom and modernize Russia faced resistance from the nobility, frustrating his reformist ambitions and deepening his inner tensions. Over time, Alexander grew more introspective and melancholic, distancing himself even from his closest allies. His health began to deteriorate, and his personal life was filled with remorse. Among his regrets was his possible involvement in the assassination of his father, Tsar Paul I, an event that haunted him throughout his life. Spirituality became his refuge, leading him to explore deeper and more transformative practices of faith. Alexander's death in 1825 in the city of Taganrog sparked a wave of conspiracy theories. The lack of direct witnesses and the unclear circumstances surrounding his death fueled rumors that he might have faked it. These speculations were bolstered by the emergence of Fyodor Kuzmich, an ascetic monk in Siberia whose demeanor and knowledge resembled the Tsar. This enigma has fascinated both historians and enthusiasts alike. The legacy of Alexander I endures as a symbol of the tensions between power and faith, duty and personal desire. He was a leader who sought to modernize his empire while grappling with his own inner demons. His life invites reflection on the burden of responsibility and the impact of spirituality on those in power. Alexander I was not just a czar but a man striving to find purpose amid the chaos of his time. The official death of Alexander I in 1825 marked a moment of great uncertainty in Russia. According to records, he died in Taganrog, far from the court, due to typhoid fever. However, the circumstances of his death were unusually mysterious. The absence of key witnesses, the haste of his burial, and the lack of a proper autopsy sowed doubt among the populace. Some believed the Tsar had faked his death to escape the burdens of the throne and lead a simpler, more spiritual life. In 1836, a man named Fyodor Kuzmich appeared in Siberia, a monk living humbly in the city of Tomsk. Known for his wisdom and dignified bearing, he aroused suspicion among those who met him. Although he never claimed to be anyone other than a servant of God, his behavior and knowledge led many to believe he was Alexander I in disguise. His arrival in a remote region and his reluctance to discuss his past heightened the speculations. Witnesses who had known Alexander noted a striking physical resemblance between the Tsar and Fyodor Kuzmich. Additionally, the monk exhibited an extraordinary mastery of imperial court protocols and a deep understanding of Russian politics. These qualities were unusual for someone who had supposedly lived as a simple monk all his life. Such coincidences strengthened the belief in a connection between the two. A graphological analysis conducted in the 20th century added another layer to the mystery. Comparisons between Alexander's handwriting and that of Fyodor Kuzmich revealed striking similarities. Although inconclusive, These studies suggested that the two might have been the same person. Furthermore, among Fyodor's belongings, a coded message was found signed with the initials AP, interpreted by many as Alexander Pavlovich. Fyodor's appearance in Siberia coincides with the desire some attribute to Alexander to seek spiritual redemption. During his final years as Tsar, he had shown a growing interest in mysticism and religious practices. This leads some to believe that monastic life offered him a way to atone for his guilt and reconcile with his past. His retreat would have been an extreme decision, yet consistent with his introspective character. The mystery of Alexander I and Fyodor Kuzmich continues to intrigue historians and truth-seekers. If the Tsar indeed faked his death and lived as a monk, his story represents a radical renunciation of power in search of spiritual peace. This enigma stands as a testament to how power and spirituality can intertwine in unexpected ways, leaving a legacy filled with unanswered questions. The Great Schema represents the highest level of monasticism in the Orthodox Church, a practice demanding absolute devotion to God. Monks who reach this stage renounce the material world entirely, dedicating their lives to prayer, meditation, and fasting. This spiritual commitment symbolizes an internal rebirth, where the monk abandons their former identity to embrace an existence wholly devoted to the divine. Initiation into the Great Schema involves a deeply symbolic ceremony known as the Second Baptism. During this rite, monks receive a special garment called the annalab, adorned with crosses and other sacred symbols that remind them of their vows and spiritual battles. Life at this level of monasticism is marked by strict discipline, designed to purify the soul and strengthen the spirit against worldly temptations. This tradition has a history spanning over 1,500 years, rooted in the early days of Christianity. It emerged as an extreme form of devotion, when ascetics sought isolation in the desert as a space to connect deeply with God. Over time, the Great Schema became the highest standard of spiritual commitment within Orthodox Christianity, reserved only for the most dedicated. The connection between Alexander I and the Great Schema has been a subject of speculation. Some believe that the Tsar, after years of inner conflict and remorse, might have found solace in this monastic way of life. His interest in spirituality and the rumors surrounding his connection to Fyodor Kuzmich reinforce the idea that he could have sought refuge in this tradition. The life of a monk in the Great Schema is not easy. It requires not only renouncing all material comforts but also maintaining near total isolation. Monks spend hours in prayer and meditation, seeking continuous communion with God. This level of dedication demands extraordinary spiritual strength and discipline, which few are willing to attain. The Great Schema continues to inspire both admiration and awe. It represents the highest ideal of Christian life, where an individual transcends human limitations to achieve a profound connection with the divine. If Alexander truly adopted this way of life, his story would testify to humanity's capacity to seek redemption and purpose, even in the most extreme circumstances. The connection between Alexander I and Fyodor Kuzmich has fascinated generations. The theory that the Tsar faked his death to adopt the life of a monk is supported by several intriguing coincidences. One of the most significant is their physical resemblance. Witnesses of the time claim that Fyodor bore a striking similarity to Alexander, with similar facial features, height, and gestures reminiscent of the Tsar. This resemblance was enough to arouse suspicion among those who met him. Fyodor Kuzmich also exhibited behaviors and knowledge uncommon in a humble monk. He had an exceptional mastery of courtly protocols and a detailed understanding of Russian politics, knowledge that only someone with direct experience in the imperial nobility could possess. Additionally, he avoided speaking about his past, fueling the mystery surrounding his true identity. His reserved demeanor and distinguished bearing led many to believe he was concealing a noble origin. Another crucial element of this theory is the graphological evidence. Analyses conducted in the 20th century found striking similarities between Alexander's handwriting and that of Fyodor Kuzmich. Although inconclusive, handwriting experts noted that both samples shared unique characteristics, such as specific strokes and stylistic patterns. This has led to serious consideration of the possibility that the monk and the Tsar were the same person. Among Fyodor Kuzmich's belongings were encrypted documents signed with the initials AP. Some historians suggest these initials could stand for Alexander Pavlovich, the Tsar's full name. This discovery, though ambiguous, adds another piece to the puzzle. Furthermore, Fyodor left messages hinting at a deep knowledge of the inner struggles of imperial power, something that seems more than coincidental. Alexander's spiritual connection to the great schema also aligns with the life Fyodor led as a monk. During his final years as Tsar, Alexander showed an increasing interest in spirituality and monastic life. If he indeed faked his death, his transformation into Fyodor could be seen as a search for redemption and an act of reconciliation with his conscience. This drastic turn in his life would be consistent with his introspective character and desire to atone for his guilt. Despite decades of research, the enigma of Alexander I and Fyodor Kuzmich remains unresolved. The possibility that a Tsar renounced power to pursue a life of humility and faith is deeply captivating. If the theory is true, this act would represent one of the most radical and symbolic decisions in the history of world leaders. The mystery persists, inviting reflection on the nature of power, repentance, and the spiritual quest. Grigory Rasputin is a figure who blends mysticism, political influence, and controversy. Born in 1869 in a remote Siberian village, his life changed drastically after experiencing what he described as a spiritual awakening. This event led him to wander through monasteries and religious communities, where he gained a reputation as a healer and man of faith. Despite his humble origins, Rasputin rose to the highest circles of Russian society. Rasputin's connection to the imperial family began when he was summoned to treat Tsarevich Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia. According to accounts, Rasputin managed to alleviate the boy's symptoms, earning the absolute trust of Tsarina Alexandra. To her, Rasputin was a messenger from God, which granted him a privileged position at court. However, his influence over the imperial family provoked resentment and distrust among the nobility and Tsar Nicholas II's advisors. Despite his spiritual role, Rasputin's life was surrounded by scandal. He was known for his indulgent lifestyle, including liaisons with high society women and excessive drinking. His detractors viewed him as a manipulator using his influence for personal gain. These criticisms intensified when he became involved in political matters, making decisions that directly impacted the empire's fate. One of Rasputin's most enigmatic traits was his ability to foresee future events. Before his assassination in 1916, he predicted that if he were killed by nobles, the Romanov dynasty would fall shortly thereafter. This prophecy proved eerily accurate. Less than 2 years later, the Russian Revolution ended imperial rule, and the Romanov family was executed. This connection between his death and the empire's collapse cemented his place in history as a mystical and tragic figure. Rasputin's assassination was an elaborate plot led by Prince Felix Yusupov. Despite being poisoned, beaten, and shot, Rasputin displayed an almost supernatural resistance before finally succumbing. His body was eventually thrown into the Neva River. Far from resolving the empire's issues, his murder became a symbol of the decadence and tensions that led to the downfall of the Tsarist regime. Rasputin remains a polarizing figure in Russian history. For some, he was a man of faith with extraordinary gifts. For others, an opportunist who exacerbated the monarchy's weaknesses. His life and death reflect the tensions of a Russia in transition, and his legacy continues to fascinate those seeking to understand the role of mysticism and power in shaping the fate of nations. Agafia Lykova is the last surviving member of a family that lived in isolation in the remote Siberian forests for more than 40 years. The Lykovs, members of the Old Believers, fled into seclusion in 1936 to escape religious persecution. In a small cabin hundreds of kilometers from civilization, they built a life based on self-sufficiency, with their faith as a fundamental pillar. Born in this isolation, Agafia grew up with no contact with the modern world. She was unaware of major historical events like World War II until years after they had ended. Her childhood was marked by harsh Siberian winters and an austere lifestyle that included farming and hunting for sustenance. Despite these challenges, her life was imbued with deep spirituality and a strong sense of purpose. In 1978, a team of Soviet geologists stumbled upon the Lykov family by chance. This encounter revealed an extraordinary story of survival. While the Lykovs accepted small gifts such as utensils and food, they refused to abandon their way of life. However, contact with the outside world brought illnesses that claimed the lives of 3 family members within a few years. Since her father's death in 1988, Agafia has lived alone in the forest, preserving the traditions of the Old Believers. Her daily routine includes praying, caring for animals, and growing food. Although she has received occasional help from volunteers and explorers, she remains steadfast in her decision not to leave the place where her family found spiritual refuge. In recent years, health issues have prompted Agafia to seek medical assistance outside her isolation. This brief contact with the modern world highlighted both her vulnerability and her resilience. Her story has drawn international attention, inspiring people worldwide with her unwavering determination and faith. Agafia Lykova symbolizes spiritual endurance and a deep connection with nature. Her life testifies to how faith and simplicity can provide profound purpose amid adversity. In an increasingly connected and technology-dependent world, her story invites reflection on the fundamental values of human existence. Lake Baikal, located in Siberia, is the world's oldest and deepest lake, but its significance extends far beyond geography. For the Buryat people, Baikal is sacred and inhabited by protective spirits. Surrounded by mountains and forests, this body of water is a place where nature and spirituality intertwine. Its unique energy attracts tourists, spiritual seekers, and scientists captivated by its biodiversity and mysticism. The Buryats, who have lived in the region for centuries, perform shamanic ceremonies to honor Baikal and its spirits. These traditions include offerings of milk, vodka, and food, made at sacred sites such as the shamanic rock on Alkan Island. These rituals aim not only to protect the lake but also to ensure harmony between humans and nature, reflecting a worldview that sees Baikal as a living being. The lake is not only a spiritual symbol but also a vital resource for local communities. Fishing, particularly for the endemic Omul fish, has been a fundamental activity for the Buryats. However, this relationship goes beyond the material. Many locals feel that the lake provides them with energy, serenity, and a connection to the divine, making it an essential part of their lives. For visitors, Baikal offers more than breathtaking landscapes. Many describe feeling a special energy near the lake, a sense of peace and renewal unmatched elsewhere. This perception has made Baikal a popular destination for spiritual retreats and meditation, attracting people from around the world seeking to reconnect with nature and themselves. Despite its majesty, Baikal faces modern threats such as pollution, industrial exploitation, and climate change. These concerns have spurred conservation efforts led by both scientists and local communities. The Buryats, in particular, have played a crucial role in protecting the lake, combining their ancestral knowledge with contemporary initiatives to preserve this natural and spiritual treasure. Lake Baikal is much more than a body of water. It is a symbol of the sacred relationship between humans and nature, a place that inspires respect, wonder, and spirituality. In a world increasingly disconnected from the natural environment, Baikal reminds us of the importance of safeguarding resources that sustain not only our physical lives but also nourish our souls. Dashi Dorzo Atijilov, a Buddhist Lama from Buryatia, left a legacy that challenges both faith and science. In 1927, Atijilov announced to his followers that his time on Earth had come to an end. He asked them to revisit his body 3 decades after his death. Then, he entered deep meditation and passed away in the lotus position. This event marked the beginning of one of the most fascinating mysteries in Russian Buddhism. 30 years later, monks unearthed Atijilov's body and found it astonishingly well preserved, with no signs of decay. Fearing reprisals from Soviet authorities, who suppressed religious practices, they decided to rebury him in secret. This extraordinary preservation was interpreted as a manifestation of his elevated spiritual state, strengthening the faith of his community. Decades later, following the fall of the Soviet Union, Atijilov's body was exhumed once again, this time with greater freedom. To everyone's astonishment, the body remained in perfect condition, drawing the attention of scientists, devotees, and curious onlookers. While theories have been proposed about environmental factors or specific meditation techniques that might explain this phenomenon, none have been conclusive. In Buddhist tradition, the preservation of Atijilov's body is viewed as a sign of enlightenment. From this perspective, his spiritual mastery allowed him to transcend natural laws. His case has inspired generations of practitioners, becoming a symbol of what can be achieved through meditation, discipline, and devotion. Atijilov's body is now housed in a monastery in Buryatia, where it is venerated by monks and pilgrims. His presence attracts people from around the world, seeking inspiration in his story and the connection between spirituality and the physical realm. This legacy has strengthened the role of Buddhism in the region, revitalizing practices and beliefs marginalized during the Soviet era. The story of Dashi Dorzo Atijilov remains a bridge between faith and science. For some, it is a miracle demonstrating the power of spirituality. For others, it is a mystery that warrants further investigation. Regardless of interpretation, His legacy invites reflection on the limits of human understanding and the possibilities offered by a life dedicated to spiritual growth. Shamanism is one of humanity's oldest spiritual traditions, and in Siberia, it remains a vital force for many indigenous communities. Shamans, regarded as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds, play a central role in their societies. Their practices include rituals for healing, protection, and divination, reflecting a profound connection with nature. In Siberian shamanism, every natural element is considered to have its own spirit. Rivers, mountains, trees, and animals are not merely part of the landscape but are living entities deserving of respect. Shamans perform ceremonies to honor these spirits, striving to maintain harmony between humans and nature. This approach promotes a coexistence that contrasts sharply with modern attitudes toward the environment. Shamanic rituals often involve chants, dances, and the use of drums to enter a trance state. In this state, shamans access other planes of existence, seeking guidance to resolve community issues. These rituals not only serve practical purposes but also reinforce the cultural and spiritual identity of the indigenous peoples who practice them. During the Soviet era, shamanism faced significant repression. Many shamans were persecuted, and their practices were banned as primitive superstitions. However, indigenous communities preserved these traditions in secret, passing their knowledge from generation to generation. With the fall of the Soviet Union, shamanism experienced a resurgence, reclaiming its place in the cultural and spiritual life of Siberia. Today, Siberian shamanism faces new challenges, such as modernization and the loss of ancestral knowledge. However, it has also sparked interest beyond Siberia, attracting people seeking a deeper spiritual connection and a more respectful approach to nature. This cultural exchange has helped revitalize shamanic practices in a global context. Siberian shamanism is not just a spiritual practice but a way of understanding life and our relationship with the world. Its teachings about respect for nature and the interconnectedness of all things offer valuable lessons in a critical time for the planet. These traditions remind us that spirituality and sustainability are deeply intertwined and essential for humanity's future. Mount Athos, known as the Holy Mountain, is one of the most important monastic centers of Orthodox Christianity. Located on an isolated peninsula in northern Greece, it is home to 20 monasteries that have served as a refuge for monks since the 10th century. This spiritual enclave is not only a place of retreat but also a symbol of absolute devotion and the preservation of religious traditions. Its history, steeped in faith and discipline, makes it a unique site in the world. What makes Mount Athos particularly special is its deliberate isolation. The rule of Avatun prohibits the entry of women and female animals, a tradition intended to maintain the spiritual purity of the area. This isolation has allowed the monks to live in complete communion with God, free from modern distractions. Although controversial, this practice has been key to preserving monastic life for over 1,000 years. Daily life on Athos follows a strict routine of prayer, manual labor, and study. Monks devote long hours to meditation and reading sacred texts. They also engage in activities such as farming and crafting religious icons, ensuring the community's self-sufficiency. This austere lifestyle reflects their commitment to humility and detachment from earthly comforts. Mount Athos is also a cultural treasure of immense value. Its monasteries house a vast collection of Byzantine icons, ancient manuscripts, and liturgical artifacts. These relics have attracted scholars and pilgrims from around the world, making Athos a bridge between spirituality and history. UNESCO recognized its significance by declaring it a World Heritage Site in 1988. Despite limited access, Mount Athos welcomes pilgrims seeking spiritual guidance. The monks, though reserved, interact with visitors, sharing their wisdom and providing a space for introspection. This limited interaction reinforces Athos's role as a place where the divine and the earthly meet, offering solace to those searching for purpose in their lives. Mount Athos is not merely a physical location but a symbol of faith and discipline. Its existence invites us to reflect on the value of simplicity and spiritual connection in a world full of distractions. In an era where the transcendent often feels distant, Athos offers a model of how dedication and faith can transform lives and preserve sacred traditions. Padmasambhava, known as Guru Rinpoche, is a central figure in Tibetan Buddhism and revered as the second Buddha. His arrival in Tibet in the 8th century marked a turning point in the region's spiritual history. Padmasambhava not only introduced Vajrayana Buddhism but also integrated elements of local beliefs, creating a unique tradition that endures to this day. One of Padmasambhava's most important contributions was the establishment of Sami Monastery, the first Buddhist monastery in Tibet. This site became a hub of learning and practice, where Indian wisdom merged with Tibetan traditions. The combination of these cultures allowed Buddhism to flourish in the Himalayas, laying the foundation for one of the world's most influential spiritual schools. Padmasambhava is also known for his esoteric teachings, called termas, which were deliberately hidden to be discovered at the right time by designated practitioners. These teachings ensure the enduring relevance of his legacy in changing times, demonstrating his vision of spirituality as an evolving force aligned with the world's needs. This approach has kept his influence alive through the centuries. In addition to his work as a teacher, Padmasambhava faced significant spiritual challenges. According to legend, he subdued local spirits that opposed Buddhism, transforming them into protectors of the Dharma. This ability to integrate and convert negative energies into positive forces is seen as a metaphor for his central teaching, the possibility of redeeming and transcending the mundane through spiritual practice. His impact goes beyond Tibet. Padmasambhava is revered in Nepal, Bhutan, and other Himalayan regions, where his teachings continue to inspire practitioners. His image, with a serene expression and an aura of spiritual power, adorns monasteries and homes, reminding followers of the importance of compassion and wisdom on their path. Padmasambhava's legacy is a testament to the transformative power of spirituality. His life and teachings encourage reflection on humanity's ability to overcome both internal and external challenges. In a world increasingly disconnected from the transcendent, his example resonates as a call to introspection and the search for meaning. Baba Vanga, born Vangelia Pandiva Gustarova in 1911, is remembered as one of Eastern Europe's most mystical figures. As a child, she lost her sight due to a traumatic accident, but this tragedy marked the beginning of a gift that would transform her life. She was said to see future events and connect with spiritual forces, making her an icon of esotericism and an advisor to people from all walks of life. Baba Vanga's fame began when her predictions about local events proved eerily accurate. Over time, her visions expanded to encompass global occurrences. Among her most famous predictions were the fall of the Soviet Union and the September 11th attacks. While some of her visions did not materialize, her reputation as a clairvoyant remained strong, especially in the Balkans. Baba Vanga's life was not easy. She grew up in poverty, lost her mother at an early age, and faced the difficult circumstances of her era. Despite these challenges, she dedicated her life to helping others, offering spiritual and emotional guidance. Many of her visitors claimed her words were not only accurate but also deeply comforting. In addition to her prophetic abilities, Baba Vanga had knowledge of herbal remedies, which she used to help those seeking her aid. This holistic approach, combining the spiritual and the practical, solidified her status as a multifaceted figure. While some critics dismissed her as a fraud, her followers saw her as a genuine connection to the transcendent. Baba Vanga lived during a time when mysticism was scrutinized by communist governments. Despite this, she continued to practice her gift, attracting prominent figures who sought her counsel. Her legacy extends beyond Bulgaria's borders, and her life continues to inspire those who believe in humanity's ability to connect with forces beyond the visible. Today, Baba Vanga is remembered as a woman who transformed adversity into a source of strength and purpose. Her story invites us to reflect on the power of intuition and faith in uncertain times. Though shrouded in mystery, her legacy serves as a reminder that a connection to the spiritual can offer comfort and guidance even in the most challenging moments. Mount Kailash, located in the Himalayas, is a sacred mountain revered by several religions, including Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and Bon. Considered the center of the universe by its devotees, it attracts pilgrims from around the world and serves as home to monks who dedicate their lives to spiritual pursuit. In this inhospitable environment, over 6,000 meters above sea level, these monks exemplify devotion and human resilience. For Hindus, Mount Kailash is believed to be the abode of Lord Shiva, representing ultimate liberation. In Buddhism, it is associated with Demchok, a deity symbolizing supreme bliss. Jains regard it as the site where their first Tirthankara attained enlightenment, while Bon practitioners view it as a seat of spiritual power. This convergence of beliefs underscores its universal significance as a place of divine energy and transformation. The pilgrimage to Mount Kailash is seen as a profound spiritual journey. Devotees undertake a challenging circumambulation of the mountain, known as the Kora, often covering over 50 kilometers. Completing this ritual in the thin, freezing air is, For many, a once-in-a-lifetime act of devotion and penance. Monks living near Kailash embrace an ascetic life, enduring harsh conditions to focus on meditation and prayer. Their presence and practices reinforce the mountain's sanctity, offering inspiration to pilgrims and spiritual seekers alike. Despite its spiritual significance, Mount Kailash remains one of the least explored peaks, as climbing it is prohibited out of respect for its sacredness. This untouched status adds to its mystique, preserving its role as a symbol of divine connection and humility. Mount Kailash is more than a geographical landmark. It is a testament to the enduring power of faith and the human quest for transcendence. Its towering presence reminds us of the vastness of the universe and the spiritual heights attainable through devotion and perseverance. Life on Mount Kailash is an extreme test of faith. Monks reside in frozen caves, with no access to regular food or modern supplies. Their only sustenance comes from melting icicles for water and the spiritual energy they derive from their practices. Enduring sub-zero temperatures, they develop extraordinary physical and mental resilience, rooted in rigorous discipline. A key practice among these monks is tummo, a meditation technique that enables them to generate body heat. This method, requiring years of training, symbolizes mastery over body and mind and is essential for surviving the harsh conditions of Kailash. Additionally, they chant sacred mantras and engage in deep prayers, seeking a constant connection with the divine. Mount Kailash is also the destination for the Kora, a pilgrimage ritual that involves walking around the mountain. It is believed that completing the Kora purifies karma and brings the practitioner closer to enlightenment. For the monks who live there, each day is a spiritual Kora, where every action becomes an act of devotion and contemplation. Though isolated from the world, these monks are regarded as spiritual guardians of Mount Kailash. Their presence reinforces the sanctity of the site, inspiring pilgrims and practitioners seeking guidance on their spiritual journey. Their life of material renunciation and profound spiritual connection contrasts sharply with the fast-paced modern world, offering a model of inner peace and purpose. The monks of Mount Kailash embody a level of dedication and faith that seems almost superhuman. Their existence in one of the planet's most inhospitable locations is not only a testament to their spiritual commitment, but also a reminder of the transformative power of devotion. In a world filled with distractions, their example encourages reflection on what truly gives life meaning. Shamanism is a spiritual tradition that has shaped the lives of Siberia's indigenous peoples for millennia. For communities such as the Nenets, Chukchi, and Buryats, shamanism is not merely a religion but a way of life that deeply connects humans to nature. Shamans, as central figures in these traditions, are seen as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. In the shamanic worldview, every element of nature possesses a spirit that must be honored. Rivers, mountains, trees, and animals are regarded as living entities with whom humans must coexist harmoniously. Shamans perform rituals to maintain this balance, seeking protection, healing, and guidance from the spirits of nature. This practice reflects profound respect for the environment and interdependence with it. Shamanic rituals vary widely and often include chanting, dancing, and the use of drums to induce a trance state. In this state, shamans can communicate with spirits and find solutions to community problems, such as illnesses, family disputes, or poor harvests. Each ritual is unique, tailored to the specific needs of the moment, demonstrating the flexibility and relevance of these traditions. During the Soviet era, shamanism faced significant repression. Many shamans were persecuted, and their practices were banned as primitive superstitions. However, indigenous communities managed to preserve these traditions in secret, passing their knowledge down through generations. With the fall of the Soviet Union, shamanism experienced a resurgence, reclaiming its place in Siberia's cultural and spiritual life. Today, shamanism faces new challenges, such as the influence of modernity and the erosion of ancestral knowledge. However, it has also sparked global interest, attracting people from outside Siberia who seek deeper spiritual connections and a more respectful relationship with nature. This cultural exchange has helped revitalize shamanic practices and highlight their relevance in a world increasingly disconnected from the natural environment. Siberian shamanism is not only a spiritual practice but also a priceless cultural legacy. Its teachings about the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of balance between humans and nature offer vital lessons for the present. In a time of environmental crisis and spiritual disconnection, these traditions serve as a powerful reminder of how to live in harmony with the world around us. By exploring the mysteries of figures like Alexander I, Rasputin, and Baba Vanga, and delving into the spiritual traditions of monks and shamans from sacred places like Mount Athos and Lake Baikal, we realize that the quest for purpose and transcendence is universal. Each story, practice, and sacred place reveals facets of the human connection to the divine and the mysteries surrounding us. These narratives show that beyond power, science, and immediate answers, there is room for the unknown, for introspection, and for faith. It is these quests that shape not only the history of individuals and cultures but also our own journey as spiritual beings.